Are you indulging in behaviours that deep down you know are having a negative effect on your life? Because this is something I think I know quite a lot about, because I am a recovering drug addict. I'm now 671 days clean, coming up to, a couple of months away from being 2 years clean. But for years and years and years before I started this latest successful clean patch, you could say, I utterly failed to prevent myself from taking drugs. Deep down, I knew that drug taking, drinking alcohol was a real problem, but I was unable to solve it. I went through phases where I persuaded myself that it wasn't as much of a problem than it actually was, by comparing myself to other people that might be worse than me, or comparing myself to other people that, were taking drugs and drinking as much as I am and seemed okay. But deep down, for years and years and years and years, whilst I was failing to prevent myself from being a loser and taking drugs, I knew that I had a problem, if I was being honest with myself. And, I'm grateful for that, right? Because a lot of people, they are just stuck in the loop of persuading themselves that things aren't a problem. And if you don't know you've got a problem, then you're not going to be able to deal with said problem. The other sort of type of person that isn't going to be able to deal with their problem is the kind of person that feels like, yes, they have a problem, but they can't even imagine that it's possible to deal with that problem. There's loads of people out there that are stuck in cycles of addiction that will say that their addiction is worse than, say, mine, right? And they're unable to deal with theirs because theirs is worse than mine. Well, those kind of people, there's no help for them either. Because if you really feel like your problem is, too bad to deal with, then you're not going to be able to deal with your problem. So if you can't get to the point where you're admitting that your problem is actually a problem, and you can't get to the point where you believe that your problem is actually solvable, then I can't help you, right? This video isn't for you, this channel isn't for you. And one thing that I've had to come to terms with in terms of my desire to try and share what knowledge I've got about this subject to help other people, one thing I've had to come to terms with is that I can't save everyone. Not everyone can be saved, right? And quite frankly, most people out there that have got problems like drug addiction will never ever solve that problem, right? It's sad but true. Most people are never gonna solve their drug problem, their addiction problems, their problems that they've got with habits or behaviours that are a problem, right? That's the sad reality. Most people will continue to be stuck in the loop of whatever issues they've got until they die, right? And maybe when they're on their deathbed, they will then realise that, do you know what? This was a problem, and do you know what? This problem was solvable, and maybe acknowledge that they haven't tried hard enough to solve said problem. Now, I'm not trying to say that addiction isn't an illness. I'm not trying to say that it's not somewhat caused by people's past trauma, etc., etc. I'm not saying that it's not really sad that people have these issues like addiction, right? They're truths that I've had to sort of acknowledge within myself. But that's only gonna sort of get you to a point where you realise you've got a problem, right? It's not gonna help you long term to beat your addiction, to keep reminding yourself that, how sorry you feel for yourself and how unfair it is and how it's an illness and how you've had past trauma, etc. That's not gonna put you on a long lasting journey of sobriety or journey where you're going to be dealing with your problems, right? So, yes, acknowledge those things, but don't hang on to them to the point where they're actually detrimental to your recovery, right? because, you know, ultimately you're hanging on to the fact that it's an illness, you're hanging on to the fact that it's hard, you're hanging on to the fact that it's not fair, you know, you're hanging on to the fact that you've got past trauma, to the point where that's just giving you an excuse to be depressed and stay in the cycle of addiction, right? So you need to get to a point where you're purposefully focusing on thoughts, you know, behaviours, actions that are going to allow you to overcome your issues, rather than cycling through the thoughts and behaviours that remind you about how hard it is and how unfair it is that you've got this problem, right? And one way that I have overcome and kind of continue to overcome the fact that it is hard to stay clean, you know, being a drug addict, right? You know, one way that I'm able to acknowledge how hard it is and, you know, etc., etc., without it sort of holding me back, is to accept that as a man, you know, I can only talk from being a man because I'm not a woman, right? But as a man, life is supposed to be hard. So I kind of look at it like, yes, this is very hard, but life is supposed to be hard. You know, I've dropped the notion of having fun, relaxing, you know, letting my hair down. You know, I've dropped the opinion that I deserve to seek pleasure, right? Because they're all the things that drugs offer me that are a positive, right? So if I'm able to live a life where, yeah, I accept that things are hard, but I'm glad that things are hard, then it takes away some of the like allure of the positives, in quotes, of drugs, right? And that really helps me. You know, over the years of me failing to give up drugs, you know, I've had little successes along the way. I might have been able to give up for a few days, give up for a few weeks, give up for a few months. I think there was one time in my early 20s where I gave up for a year or so, right? But it never lasts. And one of the reasons that I'd end up falling off the wagon was because I'd get to the point where my mind would persuade me that I deserved, you know, to chill out. I deserved to, you know, get on one because I'd done so well at staying clean, because I'd done so well at, you know, working hard in my job, etc., etc. So, you know, no matter how successful those little mini successes were in the past, my mind was able to persuade me to fall off the wagon because of this notion of like deserving or wanting to relax or wanting to reward myself. You know, one of the main reasons that I'm able to stay on this path now is that I don't recognise the need or want to reward myself with anything. I focus on working hard. I focus on continuing to improve myself as a person. I focus on, you know, being a good boyfriend to my girlfriend, being a good creator for my other channel, you know, being a good sort of source of information for this channel for anyone who's interested. You know, I focus on continuing to make myself physically strong by getting myself in the gym multiple times a week, continuing to improve my skills in boxing, which also helps me to like grow in terms of strength. Continuing to improve my resilience, you know, spiritual and mental resilience through meditation and through, you know, learning about how my mind works and not reacting to every little negative thing in the world. You know, they're the things I focus on. I don't focus on relaxing. I don't focus on fun. I don't focus on reward. And the ironic thing is that as a man, if you don't focus on fun and you don't focus on reward and you don't focus on chilling out and you don't focus on, you know, how much you deserve to seek pleasure, and you just focus on work and focus on being a better person, you automatically end up getting yourself pleasure and fun. You know, you feel better about yourself because you're growing as a person, which gives you some real valuable pleasure, if you like, you know, self-worth, etc. When you are focusing on being a good boyfriend to your girlfriend, say, you know, you do get a positive boost from that, you know, when you see how happy you're making your woman, you know. And look, you know, I live a life where part of my work is that I work and share content about my classic cars, right? So inevitably, you know, I'm in a position where I'm getting to drive these cars that I've put a lot of effort into and I've built myself. And yes, that is fun, but I don't focus on the fun. The fun is a byproduct of working hard and focusing on being the best person that I can be. If I was to focus on fun, you know, put fun at the front end, then of course, when I'm driving close to my old dealer's house on the way to my garage and my mind comes up with this, you know, idea of how fun it would be to go and grab a gram of coke off him and get absolutely obliterated around the garage, then of course, you know, it's going to be easier for me to give in to those thoughts and turn off and go and see my dealer. But, you know, when I get those thoughts, I'm like, no, I'm already focused on getting myself round to the garage to work on my cars, to create content, etc., etc., or whatever I'm doing, you know, to do with all the different things that I do, you know, to earn a living, right? I'm focused on continuing to improve myself, continuing to, you know, focus on my businesses, etc., etc. I'm not focusing on fun. But as I say, you know, as a man, I truly believe that the more you work, the more you focus on being the best man that you can be, then you'll be rewarded with a happy life. Then you'll be rewarded with, you know, call it fun, call it pleasure, whatever. And going back to what I said earlier, right? Most people will not beat their addictions. Most people will not manage to overcome whatever issues they know they've got deep down. You know, they're going to die with those issues that they've got now. You know, let that sink in, because what that means is you don't have time to wait to get on a path to solve these issues. So many people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to give up taking drugs when? I'm going to give up taking drugs when, you know, A, B or C happens. They're putting the start of them getting on a journey to sorting themselves out in the future. You can't afford to do that, because chances are, even if you did start right now and even if you did put all your effort into it, you would still fail, because most people do fail, which means you have no choice but to start now, and you have no choice but to put 150,000% into it. You know, people get shocked when I say to them, and I'm sure some of them think I'm lying, right? People get shocked when I say to them that I now live a life where my health and fitness, and ultimately staying clean, is the most important thing in my life, right? If I have to lose my classic cars, if I have to lose my YouTube channels, if I have to lose my other businesses, if I have to lose my girlfriend, if I have to be homeless on the street with absolutely nothing, but I'm still living a clean life and focusing on my health and fitness, then that's the way it's got to be. My health and fitness is the most important thing in my life. And that's the way it's got to be for me to stay on this path, right? And when I say, you know, when I sort of like link my health and fitness to my sobriety, right, and me staying clean, that's because, in my opinion, you can't have one without the other, right? The lowest hanging fruit in terms of improving your life in any way is your health and fitness. Yes, there are some fat slobs out there that are smoking every day and eating crap and don't care about their body at all, you know, that are rich, that are seemingly having a happy life. Most of them aren't happy. Most of them deep down, you know, aren't happy. And even the ones that are, it's a very, very small amount, right? The lowest hanging fruit is your health and fitness. As a man, you should be working out every day. I've said it before, you don't have to go mad and spend 3 hours in the gym every day trying to become Mr. Olympia. You know, you don't even have to do as much as I do. And I consider that I could do a lot more than I do. Although a lot of people look at what I do and think that it's unreasonably excessive. You know, I work out, the plan is that I work out every morning, I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I go to boxing twice a week. To some people, that might seem really extreme. But if you're living a life where you're doing nothing, you know, then, you know, do 10 push-ups a day. Do 10 push-ups every single day without fail, and I guarantee that will be a massive, massive positive in your life if you're living a life where you're doing nothing at the moment. And as I say, your health and fitness is the lowest hanging fruit, right? You know, without your health and fitness, nothing else can come, as far as I'm concerned. Especially if you're living a life like I used to, where you're being an utter loser. You know, taking drugs every day, not focusing on your health at all. Literally, like, ruining your body just to make you feel good because you can't cope with life. You know, I now live a life where I see that as utterly pathetic. I'm not here to judge anyone else. And this is the thing as well, you don't want to live a life where you're looking down your nose at other people, and I don't. I really don't. And I don't care if people do think that I think like that, because you know, I'm sort of happy within myself, and other people's opinions of me are irrelevant, right? But I literally see my old life as being utterly pathetic. I see myself as, basically, until I was 36 years old, I was an utter waste man. To me, smoking one cigarette ever again in my life means I'm an utter waste man loser. Like, what, setting fire to a plant and inhaling the fumes? Like, it's pathetic. Personally, if I ever have one sip of alcohol ever again in my life, it's utterly pathetic. What, you're gonna ingest some rotten vegetables that have been fermented to create a poison to make your head feel dizzy? Oh, it's fun. It's pathetic. You know, like coming home from a hard day's work and like putting weed in a bit of paper and setting fire to it and inhaling the fumes so you can feel relaxed, man. Yeah, chill out, man. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. If you're a man, you shouldn't even be wanting to do any of them things. You should be too busy trying to turn yourself into the strongest human being that you can. You know, your ancestors have like gone through real grief and pain and strain for you to be born, and then you're gonna like pay them back by getting stoned, man. Yeah, man, chilling out, man, like playing computer games and wanking. Like, it's pathetic. You ain't got time to be doing stuff like that. And if these things have become an issue for you, then yeah, there's no time to waste. You need to deal with them now, and you need to put literally your whole life's energy into dealing with them, because these habits are hard to break. I'm not saying they're not, but that's the point. Yeah, it's good that they're hard. Why shouldn't they be hard? Why should I have the life that I've got now, where I'm in the best shape in my life, in the best physical, mental health that I've ever been in, after living most of my life as an utter waste man? Why should I now achieve this life where I'm in the best shape possible without it being hard? It should be hard. I need to like deserve this happy life after living a life as an utter waste man beforehand. So I'm glad that it's hard, but the fact that it's hard means that you don't have time to waste, and you need to deal with it now. You need to stop kidding yourself into thinking that you're going to deal with it in the future, because if you're in that frame of mind, you never will. You need to stop living your life in this frame of mind where, oh, you know, your addictions and your problems are so much worse than other people, it's all right for them. Because if you're in that frame of mind, then there's no hope for you, and you're going to die with your issues. But as I say, you know, maybe that's how it should be. Maybe that's a fair way for life to be. Maybe only the people that are willing to put their whole life's being, effort into it, are rewarded with being able to overcome these issues. And when I say you need to put your whole life's energy into dealing with your problems, if you're going to be entitled to deal with your problems, I really mean it. Like, if you're hanging around with people that are not living in the way that you would like to live, i.e. if they're indulging in the same behaviours and the same habits that you're trying to, you know, or what you deep down want to get out of, then you can't afford to associate with those people. It's that obvious. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have any hate for these friends that might not be wanting or able to get on this path that you want to get yourself on in terms of getting clean, but you know, you owe it to yourself to politely disassociate yourself with those people. You know, if that means that you have to live a life where you've got no friends whatsoever, then that's what it's going to take. But ultimately, you know, when you get on a different path in life, you're going to come across different types of people in your life, and then you can associate yourself with people who are living the way that you want to live, right? But whilst you're still associating with people that are living the way that you don't want to live anymore, then there's no hope for you, and you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve in terms of turning your life around. You're going to be one of the majority of people that die with their problems and don't overcome them. So if you've got friends or a partner or work colleagues or anyone around you that is on the path that you're trying to get yourself off of, then you need to get yourself away from those people. If it means you become a loner, if it means you become jobless, if it means you become single, then so be it. If it means you have to up sticks and move to a different area, then so be it. You need to do whatever it takes, because a habit is a habit, right? If you carry on doing what you've been doing, and you carry on hanging around with who you've been hanging around with, and you carry on saying what you've been saying, and you carry on thinking what you've been thinking, then you're going to carry on being who you've been being. But if you want to change who you have been, then you need to change everything to do with who you've been, right? You know, a habit is a habit. Habits are ingrained. That's why they're a habit. So you can't carry on doing the same things and expecting a different outcome. That's what they say is the definition of madness, is it? Doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different outcome. And this is, you know, the failures that I made over years and years and years of kidding myself and thinking that I was trying to get myself out of the loop of addiction when, you know, ultimately I wasn't trying hard enough, you know. There's times where you'll get to a point, right? You know, you might give up drugs for a little while, you might replace it with something else, right? But it'll never get you that far. You might kid yourself that you are able to, you know, just give up said habit, just like that, just because you've kind of proved to yourself that you've gone a couple of weeks without it. Say, because you've been in a situation where you can't use drugs or can't get drugs. And, you know, in that situation, you know, you might have been on holiday or something, right? And you've gone without drugs for a couple of weeks. And then that kind of persuades you that you're able to stop taking drugs, which then kind of gives you the excuse to think, oh, in the future, one day I'm going to give up drugs, right? Because you kind of persuaded yourself that it's easily possible whenever you want. But then, you know, you go back to living the same life and hanging around with the same people and thinking the same things and saying the same things, and lo and behold, you go back to, you know, taking the same things, right? Taking drugs and getting back into the same cycles, right? And you hear stories of people that will say, start going to the gym. They'll swap drugs for going to the gym, right? And I think a lot of people think that that's what I've done. I've swapped taking drugs for focusing on my health, for going to the gym, for going to do boxing. But this is the difference, right? With me, what's worked this time that's different from any other time, right? Because yes, you know, at the start of this attempt of me staying clean, I decided to do all the things that I know have worked in the past, right? Focusing on my fitness, meditating, etc, 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 eating healthily, you know, all these things, right? But that will only get you so far, and in the past it has only got me so far. But then I had to make a switch, and this is what I think is key, because it got to the point where I wasn't just a guy that had stopped taking drugs and decided to focus on all these healthy things. The switch was that I became someone that is focused on my health and fitness, which then meant that drink, drugs, smoking, eating junk every day, hanging around with negative people, you know, all those things are just unacceptable. They're not an option. So I haven't given up drugs and I haven't given up drink and then focused on my health and fitness. What I've done is I've decided to take my life seriously and actually focus on being the best man that I can be. And if you're being the best man that you can be, then taking drugs, drinking alcohol and being an utter waste man are just not an option. You know, I can sit here now and, not that I want to find out, to be honest, but I can sit here now and sort of say to myself, you know, even if I did give up the gym, even if I did give up working out at home, even if I did give up boxing, even if I did give up meditating, even if I did give up writing gratitude journals, even if I did give up, you know, causing myself suffering by having cold showers every morning, I'd like to think that even if I gave up all those things, I'd still be able to live a clean life, because I haven't started doing these other things as a crutch, as a replacement, right? But the point is that I'm never going to need to find out, because to continue growing as a man and to continue on this path of continually turning myself into a stronger and stronger man, I'm going to carry on doing those things anyway. And I think this is where people go wrong, maybe with going to meetings and stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go to Alcohol Anonymous meetings or Cocaine Anonymous meetings. I actually went to about 5 meetings many years ago now, not during this successful attempt at staying clean, but it's something that I tried. And, you know, whilst I was going to those meetings, yes, that was a successful attempt. I think I lasted a couple of weeks on that attempt. And I must stress, if you're considering going to meetings, go and try it out. I did, and it didn't really work for me, but, you know, please do go and check out your local meetings, right? They're everywhere, so you can go to them, they're free, right? But the problem, I think, with things like that is that the sort of culture of things like that, going to meetings and stuff, they kind of tell you that you're powerless to your problems, and I kind of see where they're coming from. You have to kind of admit that you have a problem, etc., etc. But the problem with that is that they persuade you that if you stop going to the meetings, you're definitely going to start drinking again. You're definitely going to start taking drugs again. And look, if it takes that to keep you clean, then fair enough. That's what you need, and that's what works for you. But for me, I don't want to replace being a loser drug addict for something else. I want to create a man within myself that makes drugs and alcohol and all these other loser behaviours not an option. And I feel like that's what I've achieved this time, or that's what I'm, you know, because it's a never-ending journey, right? That's what I'm currently achieving at the moment, and I think that's the difference. You know, ultimately, the result is the same. I'm not taking drugs anymore, I'm not drinking anymore, and I am focusing on all these things that are keeping me in better shape, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, because I'm able to focus on my businesses. But the way I think about it is different. You know, the health and fitness comes first, and then staying clean is a result of that, rather than me thinking that just stopping taking drugs is going to solve everything in itself. And yeah, I think that's the difference. So to summarise, if you've got this far in the video, I hope that means that you are the kind of person that acknowledges that you've got a problem. You are the kind of person that acknowledges that deep down you do want to deal with that problem, and you acknowledge that it is possible to deal with your problem, and that you're not, you know, persuading yourself that your problem is, you know, bigger than maybe someone else's problem who's got a similar problem to you, right? So, you know, you understand that it is solvable. But what I think you need to acknowledge, or, you know, maybe this video will help you acknowledge that yes, it is hard, and yes, the odds are against you, and yes, you are more likely to fail than you are to succeed. But also, you know, do acknowledge that that's the way it should be, because if something's really, really, really hard, then it's more valuable, which means that you're going to feel even better when you do manage to get yourself on a path of achieving that thing, right? And, you know, if it is really, really, really hard, and the odds are really, really stacked against you, then that means you have no choice but to deal with it right now, and to deal with it in a way where you're putting every ounce of your energy into it. Every part of your life needs to be adjusted to deal with it, right? Because in my opinion, that's what it takes to be on a lasting journey of dealing with your problems. In my case, a lasting journey of sobriety, a lasting journey of staying clean and actually living a proper, decent life. And at your core of how you're going about life and ultimately going about, living a sober life, etc., etc., you need to put everything through the filter of turning yourself into the strongest man that you can, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. Make everything you do, every person you associate with, every thought you have, everything you say, put it through the filter of, is this going to be turning me into the strongest man possible? And don't forget to utterly forget and wipe out any desire to have fun, any desire to relax, any desire to seek pleasure. But rest assured that whilst you're focusing on working hard, whilst you're focusing on turning yourself into the strongest man that you can, you will be rewarded with fun. You will be rewarded with pleasure. You will be rewarded with, good feelings, etc., etc., and ultimately a good life. And if you put enough work in and you try hard enough, then you will be rewarded the benefits of being one of the very, very, very small minority of people that actually manage to deal with their issues before they die.